Hi, Miss V.
Oh, hey, Emily. How's it going?
Great. How are you?
Doing great. Just enjoying the weather and doing some laws of exponents problems out here. Would you like to learn how?
Yeah, let's do it.
These are the laws of exponents.
Exponentes!
Swinging in the palm trees, doing that.
Miss V!
Welcome to Miss V's math class. Today we're going to be talking about laws of exponents. If you're not familiar with the laws of exponents, you may want to brush up on them real quickly before going through this video. And also make sure to check out my music video for the laws of exponents. Get your rigatone on. Okay, let's go. I'm using a template that I have available on my Teachers Pay Teachers store into three parts: the actual work, the description of the work, and the potential mistakes. This is something that I give to my students, but also something that teachers can use to work through problems themselves, to kind of brainstorm mistakes that students make. I'm going to start with an easy problem and kind of work through this. My first step is I see parentheses, and so I want to get rid of those to simplify. I'm going to use the power to a power rule. That's what we call it in my class, and you can either have students write the name of the rule or kind of explain what it is they're doing. So in this case, because I see parentheses, I know to multiply the exponents. And then I'm brainstorming mistakes. Maybe I would accidentally add the exponents, or that I would forget to take a to the second. I would just leave it as a. And then I'm going to go ahead and simplify after having used that rule. Reorder so that my variables are, my a's are next to each other, my b's are next to each other, and then I can kind of just see it a little bit better. And then I'm going to use my second rule, the product rule, which is where when I see terms multiplied with the same base, I know I can add the exponents. And maybe for that one, a mistake might be to multiply the exponents instead of adding if I got confused. All right, let's move on to a harder example. I'm going to start this problem the same as the last one. I want to simplify by getting rid of the parentheses. So I'm kind of distributing that 2 because everything inside the parentheses gets squared. That includes the 2, which is the coefficient. So probably a potential mistake there is students might forget to take that 2 and square it and just leave that a 2. That would, I'd say, be a very common mistake. And then we multiply the exponents. We can simplify the fraction looking at the 4 over 8. Potential mistake there, maybe students treat those like exponents and accidentally subtract them. Because we are using the laws of exponents, we're getting used to that and kind of forget what to do with our normal numbers. And then lastly, I'm going to use my quotient rule. I have one x in the denominator, and that's going to cancel one of the x's in the numerator. My shortcut there is I can subtract the exponent in the numerator minus the exponent in the denominator. And that is it for this problem. Let's go to a third one. Getting harder here. There's a lot more to this problem, but I am going to still start the same way by multiplying my exponents because I see those parentheses. This time the coefficient is on the outside of the parentheses, so that 7 is not going to be taken to the negative second power. We're just going to leave that alone. Now, the trick here is that we have a negative power. We're going to multiply that just like normal. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And then I'm just rewriting the rest of that expression. I see a 0 power. This is a new rule we haven't encountered yet. I know that anything to the 0 power is 1, so I basically just don't even need to rewrite that because anything times 1 is itself. And then I'm also encountering the negative exponent rule here. So I like to think that a to the negative 6 means I'm dividing by a to the 6th. Alternatively, you could start here from the quotient rule and subtract the exponent in the numerator minus the exponent in the denominator. It doesn't really matter. You should arrive at the same answer either way. Some potential mistakes here. Students often think a to the 0 is equal to 0. It's not. It's equal to 1. There's a lot of terms floating around, a lot of a's, a lot of b's. It would be very easy to lose some of those. And then just simply, again, that coefficient, 7 over 35, if we kind of get lost in this problem, we might treat those coefficients as if they're exponents and subtract those numbers instead of dividing them. And then we can finish this one up using the product rule and the quotient rule, and we get to our answer. And one more example for you guys today. This one's in a little bit of a different form than the last 3 that we saw. It's hard for me to work through this in the form that it's in right now, so I'm going to try and rewrite this without parentheses. I'm just going to place everything in the numerator next to each other, everything in the denominator next to each other, because there are no exponents on the outside of the parentheses in the problem, so there really isn't a purpose to those. And then I can kind of work through these using all my other rules, the zero power, negative power. I can reorder because on the bottom, for some reason, I have a U in front of the T. I like to keep those in alphabetical order just to keep my thinking straight. There's a lot of potential mistakes here. You can go through and list those out, think through those, but to speed things up, I'm just going to keep going. Make sure that your fraction gets simplified correctly, 2 over 10 into 1 over 5. And then we can use our product rule and quotient rule to add and subtract the exponents. Be very careful here because there are negative exponents. Make sure that you or your students are being very careful with those and doing that properly. I encourage my students to not use a calculator, but then to check their work with the calculator after the fact. And then at the very end, I am kind of taking that 1/5 out to the side while I'm using the quotient rule, factoring that out for a moment. I come to a t with a negative exponent, so at the very end, I'm just going to move that into the denominator, and that makes it fully simplified.
I hope you found this helpful. Have a mathemagical day and be sure to subscribe for more tips.
X to the A, I'm feeling so sweet. Solving all these problems to a real sick beat.